are in chapter 11. Chapter 11 talks about the next moral virtue, which is cleanliness. What do you think cleanliness means, Mati? What do you think it could mean? Be clean, right? That's how we started out saying it must mean that it's physically clean. But the Ramchal says no, it's not talking about physical cleanliness, it's talking about spiritual cleanliness, which means that the two moral virtues that we dealt with, which is zrizut, zrizut is quickness, zehirut, carefulness, dealt with the ability that we have to control our urges, to control the yetzer. Midat anikiyut, cleanliness, is to remove the desire for sin altogether. To remove the desire to sin altogether. For example, do you have a desire to be with grandma? To have relations with grandma? No, of course not. Being with her, sleeping with her, right? Most of us, if we're normal, right, don't desire to have relations with our grandmother. That desire was taken out completely. Though I read a story of a guy who worked in a mortuary that apparently raped the corpse of an 82-year-old woman. And I could not understand for the life of me where that would come from. I just don't understand that. Like, you are with a corpse, and she's 82 years old. How cute must she have been? Right? I just don't understand this. It just tells you how sometimes people's desires are so off that they're gone completely. There's no hope for this. There's no hope for this. So midat anikiyut, this cleanliness, is the idea that we should remove our desire to sin. He talked about two major categories: theft, gezel, and sexual relations, right? Sexual desires, arayas. And then we talked about the three major moral qualities that we have to work on. Okay, and this is where we are for today. We talked about four things, but I only focused on three. Do you remember what they were?
Anger, jealousy, haughtiness.
Haughtiness, you got to do them in order. Haughtiness, anger, and jealousy.
What was the first one?
Haughtiness, arrogance.
Oh.
Where the person thinks that he's better than anyone. Right? I'm better than everybody. And where does that feeling come from? So the Ramchal tells us that the idea of gaiva, of haughtiness, is that when a person believes that he is owed things, that the world owes him something, he thinks himself as wise. He thinks himself that he's got all these different qualities. And he says, but when you think of this way, and it's not only thinking that I'm wise, because frankly, I think I'm a smart person. I'm not the smartest person in the world. But I can hold my own. But that doesn't make me Baal Gaiva, doesn't make me arrogant. What makes it arrogance is the next step. Arrogance comes when the person says, I am wise, therefore people should honor me. That is, we should all have self-confidence. You should know what you're good at. Like, if you're good at knitting, and you're the best knitter in the world, I mean, you could just do crochet and yarmulkes and everything, and that's great. But when you come and you say to people, I'm the greatest in the world, I want to be honored, I deserve to be honored, that is where the problem begins. Okay? So he says, some people believe that they're special. Some people think that because they're special, they get to behave in a certain way, like to walk in a certain way. There are people who walk, you could tell that they're arrogant. They sort of walk like this, they carry themselves in a certain way, they speak in a certain way, like this, I am God. Right? You've met people like this. You could see that they look down at people. And that is a serious, serious problem. So he says, how do we know a person is arrogant or haughty? We look at his actions, we look at the way that he moves, we look at how he eats, we look at how he drinks and how he dresses. And you see that he is arrogant. You could tell. So he says that this is something that we really have to get rid of. There needs to be a lot of effort put to get rid of arrogance. There's a problem with arrogance that we saw earlier. The Maharal talks about this. I mentioned this before. You cannot learn anything if you're arrogant. Why? Because there is this concept in philosophy called the principle of charity. Have you heard of the principle of charity before, Mati? Principle of charity, I am adapting it a little bit so that since it's on television and someone can look it up on the internet, they would say, well, that's not exactly what it is. So I'm adapting it for our purpose. Principle of charity says that you should assume that the person that is writing what you're reading is at least as intelligent as you are. So that when something doesn't make sense, you don't say, this is stupid. Because when you are arrogant, when you read something, you think that you have the truth. And if it doesn't agree with you, whatever you're reading is stupid. When you're coming to learn Torah, if you have that attitude, you can't learn Torah. Why? Because when you read what the Gemara says, and what the Torah says, and it doesn't agree with your values, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to be dismissing it. You're going to say, this is stupid. How do they know? They don't know anything. That's like from 2,000 years ago. This stuff is ancient. It doesn't apply to anything. Like, really? Just because it's old, does it mean that it's useless? And we live in a world that we believe in in progressiveness. The newer, the better. Right? iPhone 4, iPhone, what is it, 25? What are they on now? 5S? iPhone 5S. Right. Ooh, I have 4. I don't have 4 either. But whatever. The idea is that if you don't have the latest gadget, there's something wrong with you. Well, guess what? We are the people of the deader the better. The deader the better. Right? Why? Because we are moving farther and farther from the truth. When was the truth founded? On Har Sinai. And every day that goes by, we are farther from it. We're a little bit farther. And previous generations knew the Torah better than we did. So we are, in a sense, inculcating in ourselves humility. A little bit of humility to say, you know what? I don't know. And if something doesn't make sense, I say, I don't understand it. I don't. Where's the problem? With me, not with the text. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. It means that there's something that I have to work on. Rather than to say, this is stupid. Why would anybody think like this? So being arrogant is essentially blocking you from connecting to Hashem. The same thing with the midah of anger. And we talked about this yesterday. When a person gets angry, why do they get angry? Mati, do you know? When somebody gets angry, do you ever get angry? Okay, so why do you get angry?
Frustration.
That what? What are you frustrated about?
Something causing it. Someone did something.
So that things are not going the way you want. Correct? You want a green light and now it's red. And you're going to be late. And now you're mad. Right? And we are angry, we let it go. We act in a way that we don't always act this way. For example, if you're speeding and a cop pulls you over, are you angry?
He says that.
Yes. And the cop comes to your window, license and registration, please. Are you going to tell him off? Are you going to yell at him, say, hey, you idiot, what are you doing? Can't you see that I got a place to be? No, maybe in Canada, not in the U.S. What?
That's where you get like videos of like people like telling off cops, like cursing and everything. It's funny.
Most people, I don't know, when the cop pulls over.
The rabbi, I really think you have it backwards.
I what?
I really think you have it backwards.
I have it backwards.
Mexicans wearing sweaters wouldn't do that.
Most people with a basic respect for authority would be hungry.
No, even if they're not respectful for authority, they don't want to get a bigger ticket.
Yeah, but you have to keep your mouth shut.
They're trying, right? You would try to be as nice as possible to get out with a warning, right?
Yeah.
So you were like, here, officer, what seems to be wrong? You were speeding. Yeah, you'd give them a story, this, my that, my whatever it is, the puppy threw up in the back of the car. Look at the cute little puppy, right? whatever you got to do, but you're going to be very nice about it. You're going to be very nice about it. What do I want to? Why am I saying this? Because even when we're angry, we can control our behavior if we wanted to. We don't blow off. For example, if you're making $200,000 a year in a job, and your boss calls you in and rips you a new one, you tell him off? If you're making $200,000 a year, you're going to say, thank you, sir. Please, may I have another? Right? Most of us are going to be like, okay, listen, every once in a while he's going to blow off steam and I have to take it, so I'll take it. It is what it is. That's the idea of anger. That we should get to a level to understand why we're angry. We're angry because the world is not going according to what we want. And if we live in that way, we have a big problem. Who runs this world? God. Who runs this world? God. It's His world. If things are running in a certain way, what does it mean? That's what He wants. So you want to blow off and you start screaming because God doesn't want it your way? That's why Chazal say, the rabbis tell us, that a person who gets angry is similar to a person who is worshiping idols. Why? Because getting angry and behaving in an angry way tells us that you don't believe that God has a plan. That the world should run according to you.
What if you don't believe in God in the first place?
Then you got bigger problems. Right?
I was saying for myself.
I know. I'm not doubting your religiosity and connection to Hashem. But I think that a person who says there is no God, then they have no excuses. Because something bad happens, who do they blame? They can only blame themselves or other people. And that makes you very bitter. I say, God runs this world. And if I miss the bus, or the girl dumped me, poured drink over my head, then I guess I'm supposed to learn from that. Never happened to me. It's going to be on TV, so you see, no one's going to call and say, yes, it did. No, never happened. Even when probably I deserved it. Okay. So anger. It's a big problem. Big problem. Okay. So he says a person who is angry, he could, if he had the power, he would destroy the world. The only reason that we don't destroy the world is because we didn't have power to do it. And there are times when we all get that angry. Like if we could, we would just, yeah, really? Control, Alt, delete. End of the universe. We'll start again, and you're not in my universe. It's like, that's terrible. That's a terrible way to live our lives. Relax. It's not your circus. It's not your monkeys. Let it go. He says when a person when he gets angry, it means that he lost the control of it. His mind does not control him. He's running on what we would call pure emotion. And then he says, "Ve'hu kal vadai la'avor kol minei averot sheba'alam." And a person like this has no brakes. He is liable to sin. Any sin that is out there. Because he has no control over what he does.
But then how, right, so let's say someone comes up to you in the street and goes, starts screaming at you because they're angry with you.
Uh-huh.
And then how are you supposed to respond to that? You're not going to say thank you very much or whatever and walk away.
Well,
You definitely can.
yes, you
that'll
can.
make them madder. That's worse than
Just,
the finger.
I would say what our friend Jeremy taught me this morning. This world is full of beautiful people. And I have a mitzvah to love you. Give me a hug. Wow, right? No, I wouldn't do that. I would say, first of all, I would say, wait a second. Do you want to talk about it? Or do you want to just yell? And if the person says, I said, okay, you just want to yell, let it out, okay. And when they're done, you would say, okay, now you ready to talk? We're done. But the point is, for you to control your anger. If you got angry at somebody screaming at you, is that going to make the situation any better? Is that going to bring the situation to any sort of resolution? Right? You have one person screaming, now you have two people screaming. How is that any better? He's not listening to you and you're not listening to him. Right? How is that getting you anywhere? There was this comedian in Israel who died in the 80s who said, he said, there's a beautiful, what did he say? Soliloquy. So he said, on Shakespeare. So he said, what's a soliloquy? It's a monologue. And it's like, what's a monologue? He says, well, it's a dialogue, but just with one person. So he says, what? He was asked, what does that mean? He says, a monologue is one person talking to himself. And a dialogue are two people talking to themselves. And I think there is really truth to that. If you pay attention, when people are fighting, they're really two people. Each person is talking to himself or herself. They're not talking with one another. They're not listening to one another. When you're angry, when you're yelling, you're essentially closed. Why? Because you want your way. You want to get that point across. And it's not helpful. Right now is not the time. It's not the time. When you get married and your wife is screaming at you, it's not the time to say, honey, hi. It's not the time. Right? Sometimes you just have to listen and try to figure out, what is she saying? Maybe she's right. What? What if I am right?
Could it be reverse gender roles?
That I'm screaming?
Yeah, and then your wife's listening.
That's dangerous in its own way. But the question is, if you are right, then you don't need to scream it out.
She'll listen anyways.
Usually when you're screaming at somebody, they're not going to listen to you. They're not. It's like when you're hitting somebody and say, I am right, and you're hitting them. You think they're really listening to you?
So the moral story is that women are always right.
No, the moral story is, don't get into anger. It's not a question if a woman is right or wrong. That's a separate question. That's a separate class altogether. But I think you're better off assuming what she says, that she's right, as opposed to assuming that she's wrong and you're right. I mean, unless you like your couch. If you like the couch, then go for it. Hey, why not? You'll spend a few more months on there. It's fine. It's up to you. Shlom bayit, right? Have a peaceful house means that you have to give in. You have to let go of your ego. It's not a question of being right or wrong. The question is, what is the goal? If your goal, your key is going to fall out of your pocket. If the goal in your life is that you want to be right, then sometimes you sacrifice peace for that. But if your goal is that I want to have a peaceful home, then you sacrifice the issue of whether you're right or wrong, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we're right or wrong, because I'm trying to achieve something else. You learned that with Rabbi's wife, right? Told you that lesson.
Well, not with Rabbi.
Okay. So that is an important lesson for all relations with human beings. What is the goal of your relationship? Is it more important for you to be right? or more important for you to save the face, or respect the person, honor, peace, whatever it is that what are you trying to do here? This is why the Ramchal told us earlier, you have to take account of what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing. What's the purpose of your existence? To be more complete and connect to God. How are you going to connect to God? By being right all the time and shoving it down people's throats? Yes, I am right. No, it's not going to help you. It's not going to help you. And you can't be arrogant about it and saying, I know I'm right, but I'm not going to bother arguing with you. Because I want peace, and you don't. That's also a problem. Because you can't be arrogant on what your goal is. Right? That I have a more noble goal than you. You are just interested in, you're petty, in arguing about right and wrong. Who did the dishes last? Who cleaned? Who fixed their bed? Right? I am much better. I am interested in the peace of the universe. That's also a problem. You have to, there's a person in front of you that is a human being, that has feelings, that has desires, and you have to understand. And you have to have something that's called empathy. You have to be empathetic. You don't have to be, it's not that I have to feel what you're feeling. I may not be able to feel what you're feeling. Mati, if I came and punched you in the nose, if you punched me back, would I feel the same thing that you're feeling? No. What?
Depends on what your pain threshold is.
But no, he told you exactly. No. Because it depends on a lot of things. If I was a guy that I got punched in the face every other week, then another time, no big deal. But when was the last time a rabbi punched you in the face? Never. Right? So if it ever happened, it would be a big deal. Right? Our experiences are different. The fact that your toe hurts and my toe hurts, it doesn't mean that we're feeling the same thing. So empathy is just expressing a feeling that I understand what you're going through. At least I'm trying to. I'm sorry that you feel this way. But you don't have to take responsibility for what the person is doing. That I could be very, I was talking to somebody in the yeshiva that had a certain problem, and I said, I'm sorry you feel this way. So what are you going to do? He says, what do you mean? What are you going to do? I said, me? You said that this is what you're feeling, so what are you going to do about it? How are you going to solve this? He said, well, I want you to solve it. I said, no. I said, I understand what you're feeling, but I can't really solve this problem. This is something that you are dealing with. You're going to have to deal with this. Let me know how you're dealing with it. And the person dealt with it. He stepped up and dealt with it. The Ramchal tells us that we should get to a level that we're not angry at all in any circumstance. Any circumstance. That you don't get angry. So then the question is, if you're a parent and you're supposed to educate your kids, so what? I'm not supposed to show anger? Says the Ramchal, you can fake it, but don't get angry. Fake it. You can all fake being angry in the same way that you could fake it being happy. Right? Just imagine you went on a shidduch date with a girl that is 4 times your size. You could fake being nice. Right? You will. You'll be polite. You'll be a mensch. Right, Tuvia? You'll be a mensch. You'll be nice. You'll pay for the coffee. You'll say thank you very much. No, she already ate. She's just got a big salad. But you'll pay for it. You'll be nice. You'll be polite. But the idea is, you can fake it.
A bit of diplomacy in it, situations.
Yeah. And the same thing when it comes to anger. You can, until you get to a level where you don't have anger, fake it, even when you're angry. Don't do this. Hi, how are you? That sounds like you're psycho. That would really warn people. But try to fake it in other ways. There are many techniques of dealing with when you get angry. Some people say you count till 10. 1, I'll kill you. 2, I'll kill you. 3, I'll kill you. 4, I'll kill you. 5, I'll kill you. 6, I'll kill you. Right? Or what I do is I take a deep breath and I say, not my circus, not my monkeys. And I just remind myself that I don't run this world. I don't. And if the reason it is the way that it is, it's because it has to be this way. And I am supposed to learn something from this. God is speaking to us all the time. How? Through ordinary events that occur to us. And these ordinary events are there on purpose to put us through a test. Like if you today, you would say, okay, anger. I'm going to work on anger. I'm not getting angry. As soon as you make that declaration, something's going to come up, like you're going to go get dinner and someone's going to spill their soup on your pants. And you're going to say, you idiot. And then you're going to go, oh, I just blew it. Okay, whatever. I tried. No. Even when you blow it, you say, okay, what went wrong? What did I do? How can I stop it? Right? Same thing when your parents ask, how are you doing? How are things? When are you moving on with your life? Right? Drives you nuts? I'm perfecting myself. I'm becoming a moral person. And when you show your parents you respect them and you value what they say, they will see that there is benefit to learning Torah because of the person that you are becoming. That is, you can show them by your midos what type of moral virtues and how you live your life, how you talk to people, how to treat people. That is how you show people what level of perfection or completion you've reached. You don't get angry. There's no point in getting angry. There's no point in getting frustrated when things don't go your way because it's not your world. You're just passing through here. You're being tested. So don't get angry. Okay. We're going to do next midah and we're done. Jealousy. Jealousy, it says, the Ramchal says, is based on chisaron yedi'ah v'sichlut. Absence of knowledge and foolishness. Why? Because a person who is jealous doesn't acquire anything to himself, and the person that he's jealous of doesn't lose anything either. If you're jealous of someone, let's say you have a friend, but they have a beautiful shtreimel, and you're jealous of that shtreimel. Does that get you the shtreimel? Are you going to get a shtreimel that way? By being jealous? No. Is he going to lose his shtreimel? No. What's the point? Do you want a shtreimel? Let's say the answer is yes. Should you have one? If God wanted you to have one, you would. Now, last time we ended up with the question that Dimitri asked about ishtadlut, how much effort should we put? So, if we want something, we should put effort doing it, and if we don't want it, there's no effort. But sometimes a person puts on an effort and it's not coming. And so sometimes they are jealous of their colleagues or of their friends, of their neighbors, because they have stuff that you don't have. But jealousy is also a sign that you don't really believe in Hashem. Because the reason you don't have these things that you want are because God doesn't want you to have them yet. Why? Rav Dessler says, because when a person prays to Hashem for something that he wants, that he doesn't have, and he prays over and over and he doesn't get it, he's not getting it because God believes, God knows, that if you got it, your connection to Hashem would be on a lower level than it is now. Do you hear? When you have a lack in your life of something and the lack is there on purpose, because that lack, through this lack, you need to come close to Hashem. If God gave you the car that you're begging for, you might not be closer to Hashem than you are now. And the whole purpose of your human life is to get closer and closer to Hashem. And so whatever you don't have that you're praying for, there's a reason why you don't get it. Because if you had it, it might not help you. You're not ready yet for that. So we may all daven, if you may all daven for a shidduch, but you're not ready yet. You're not there yet. Because if you were ready, what would happen? Hashem would help. But you need to do your hishtadlut, which is the praying. Okay, we'll stop here. We'll start the next chapter tomorrow, Bezrat Hashem.